you been smoking, boy?
Smoking? Don't smoke. Causes cancer.
You know what I mean. Would you just get off a spaceship or something? Colombian gold, man. Grass, hash, the weed. Dig it?
Officer Dorf. So far as fans are concerned, that turn as law enforcement in the original Friday the 13th remains your most memorable role. I'm wondering, though, how did it come to be? Sean Cunningham gives you a call, and then what? Walk us through that process.
Well, actually, Landon, I called Sean.
Oh, all right.
I remember I was having lunch at a little restaurant, and I had picked up Daily Variety, and I saw the original ad, Friday the 13th with the glass shattering. Did you ever see that ad?
Yes.
And it's currently in production, directed by Sean Cunningham. Now, I had worked for Sean before, several years before, and I said, damn, let me call him. And it was raining that day, so he was home. Mm-hmm. And he said, oh, wow, good to hear from you. How are you? Blah, 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 blah. I said, Sean, I see you're directing a new movie called Friday the 13th. And he said, yeah, we're in production now. I said, well, I guess it's too late for anything for me in it. And he says, yeah, Ron, we're all cast. And I said, okay, talk to you later. Good luck on this film, Sean. And just before I was ready to hang up, he says, Ron, wait a minute. He says, you know what? There's a part that I was going to do, and you'd be good for it. So why don't you come up to the lake up there at where we were filming it in what's the name of the dam? Blairstown.
Yes.
In Blairstown, New Jersey. I took the bus up there, and he had sent me the sides a couple of days before. This was long before email. Mm-hmm. And I auditioned, and I auditioned with, they were already cast. It was Kevin Bacon, Harry Crosby, Jeanette, and I forgot who else was there. And they were laughing at, the kids were laughing. And when I finished, Harry Crosby said, I'm unduly impressed. But Sean didn't say anything. So we walked back up the hill, and he says, okay, you got the part. Here's the script, learn the lines. We start shooting Friday. Uh-huh. So it was as simple as that.
Well, you just talked about unduly impressed. When I sit down at Tonto, there's so many great one-liners from that appearance in Friday. I have to ask, how much of that was scripted and how much was improvised? Did you go completely just what they had, or did you kind of go off and do your own thing too?
No, it was pretty much 100% scripted.
Oh, all right.
For a couple of lines, not a line. Kevin Bacon moved to my motorcycle at one point, and then I followed him over there. I like that because it was fresh and spontaneous. But the lines were so well written. I just did a seminar down in, not a seminar, but a big convention down in Fort Lauderdale, and Sean was there, Sean Cunningham and Robbie Morgan. And Mancini, Harry Mancini, and our star, Alice, was there. Mm-hmm. What's Alice's name? I can't think of it.
Adrienne King.
Adrienne King.
Yep.
And, it was great. It was called a Shock Pop Comic-Con, and it was wonderful. And so we went over a couple of these questions, and we had a seminar, and there were a lot of people there, and they said, one of them asked me, Officer Dorf, how did you, get to be, such a favorite in such a small part? And I said, and with no false modesty, that it was a great part. Mm-hmm. It was a great part, and any good actor could have done that and be remembered. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people don't realize it, that you see an actor and say, oh, this actor's wonderful, and blah, 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 blah. But you have to get it from the writer. It has to be good lines and a good part. Mm-hmm. And I understood it. I guess I've known guys like that. I think my stepfather was a little bit like that, my own dad, and everybody's come into contact. Not always cops either,
Right.
Guys who like to throw their weight around.
Yep. Now, it is a staple of my iHorror interview diet. Be it at a convention, through fan mail, or a random encounter, what is the strangest request you've ever received from a fan?
Oh, my God, have I got an answer.
Oh, I'm waiting for it.
A couple of years ago, somebody from I don't know, I think it was Europe. Get a lot of mail from Europe. He wanted a picture of my feet.
A picture of your feet?
A picture of my feet with my socks off, just my feet, the bottom of my feet facing the camera.
Okay.
And I declined to...
Yeah, that is...
That was one of the weirdest.
That is unique. Yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my head around that one. Some of the other ones, that's definitely the most unique, no question. Well, we've been talking about conventions a little bit. I've been to the last 2 Comic-Cons in Minneapolis, and I have to say, it's fun and weird at the same time, but that's from the outside looking in. As someone who's on the docket for some of these horror conventions from time to time, give us a sense of what it's like to be an attraction, for lack of a better term, at a convention.
Well, it's good. It's all good. I mean, I didn't come to New York to have a cult following in a horror movie. This is something that's just the way the chips fell. I am grateful for the fans, but I would still rather have had a TV series or be the next Brad Pitt or the earlier. It would have to be the earlier Brad Pitt or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
We always want something more, but I love it. What actor wouldn't?
Mm-hmm.
Of course I love it. People coming up and they know who I am and sign their DVD or their book. A lot of them lately have been. I've been signing the big book by Peter Brower.
Yeah.
A lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
And posters, and sometimes they have beautiful, elaborate posters of Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, gorgeous. They put a lot of time in it, and they've lacquered it down, and sometimes in Japanese, and all kinds of... the fans and the collectors are really into this.
Mm-hmm.
And of course it's a good feeling. And the one I did in Fort Lauderdale was especially fun because I was with Sean and Robbie Morgan, and Robbie Morgan's husband, who is also quite well known as the spokesperson and host of the Antique Roadshow.
Ah.
His name is Mark Wahlberg, not the same movie star.
Right.
And it was nice to meet him, and they were such a great couple. And so we all hung out, and Harry Mancini and Sean, and like I said, it was great. A little reunion, Adrian, and we talked about the old days and things that happened on the set.
Yeah, I'd never known that before. It's interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about Satan's Playground, a torture chamber, your work with Dante Tomaselli?
Yes, Dante is really my favorite director because he's such a fan, and he's really so talented. He's brilliant. I told him he's the Orson Welles of horror.
Oh, it's high praise.
Welles was, yeah. He was sort of a film genius. And Dante just sent me some music he composed that really scared the wits out of me. And it's on Amazon.com. So he composes music that is so scary, and then he writes his own scripts, and then he directs. And he's very gentle and kind and just a generally good guy. Mm-hmm. In fact, when we were doing a torture chamber, he just like treated it. It was a little embarrassing. He was like, Ron, do you want anything? Ron, you okay? Ron. And he had everybody else like, Ron, you okay? Okay, guys, knock it off. I'm okay. And so there was a scene where they had to carry me, the kids, the insane kids that were going around torturing people and killing people. Mm-hmm. They had knocked me out and tied me up and gagged me, and they were carrying me. Two had my legs and two had my arms, and they were carrying me down in the tunnel. I don't know if you've seen the movie or not. Mm-hmm. And dragging me, and it was nothing. And they were, huffing and puffing because they were kind of slight kids. Mm-hmm. And so after they said cut, Dante came over, Ron, are you okay? And everybody's, Ron, are you okay? And the poor kids are laid out, huffing and puffing and breathing and dying of exhaustion. And it's like the slaves of Ben-Hur,
Yeah.
I felt kind of embarrassed that I was getting all this attention, and these poor kids who did all the work, they were like, it was exhausting for them.
Right.
And no one was paying any attention to them.
Yeah, I was paying attention to you. Now,
Yeah.
I noticed this on IMDb, and I know you always have to kind of take things with a grain of salt with IMDb, but I wanted to ask you about it to see if it were true or not. Were you part of the Swift messenger service with Al Pacino? I'm guessing like the early 70s?
Absolutely.
Okay, can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, well, it was, I'll tell you the first time I met Al, it's quite a story. I had my very first job in New York. I was 21 years old, was for one of these True Confessions love magazines. I don't even know if they're still around anymore. But it paid like $35, and this was so long ago. That was quite a bit of money back then. So I did it, and my co-star, Judy, she played my wife, and it came out with "You're no good in bed. 3 days of marriage was all he could take." And we were fighting, improvising, and we had such a good time improvising. And she was rather attractive, and I asked her out that Saturday night to go to the movies. And so I told my roommate, Ed Terry, that I was going to take Judy to see Tom Jones. Now you're all going to know how old I am. And so in those days, you went out on a Saturday night date. The guy wore a suit and tie or a sports jacket and a tie, and your date was in high heels and hat and white gloves, the whole thing.
Right.
So my roommate Ed Terry says, "Look, don't spend $5 for the movie." He said, "I have a buddy who's an usher there. He'll let you in the side door." So I met Judy in front of the theater, and she's all dressed up, the works, high heels and the whole thing, and I'm in a suit and tie.
Right.
And she said, "We better get in line because we'll be late." There's a big line to get in to see the movie. It was a big hit. And I said, no, we're going to sneak in. And she went pale, a Saturday night date, and the guy,
Right.
and he tells his date they're going to sneak in. So she didn't know what was coming up. So we went over to the side door, and at exactly 7:15, I had to knock 3 times like this. Did you hear that?
Yep.
At three times, and all of a sudden, this little guy opens the door, and he said, "Hey, hi, are you Ron? Yeah, come on in." And there was nobody in the theater, and it was Al Pacino. And he says, "Hi, I'm Al Pacino." I says, "Ron." He says, "Ron, nice to meet you. Okay, you guys have a seat here. I got to go open the front doors now." And that's how I met Al Pacino. He was an usher at Cinema One and a friend of Ed Terry, and that's how we were in those days as actors. We'd help each other out. And then it's sort of like we just kept meeting each other, and so the next time we met each other was working for Leo's show business. Every Thursday morning, we would deliver papers, and I think we got $7 each for that job. Afterwards, we became a little bit closer. We'd go out for coffee and talk about our favorite actors, Brando, of course, and this was the time of the British influence, Richard Harris, Albert Finney. And then later that summer, we found each other working again for the Swift Messenger service. So this was the third time we were working together. There was something fateful in that. And we got to be a little bit better friends. And then we would deliver messages on foot in those days.
Yeah.
And then we got paid $1.35 an hour. And I ran into Al about 5 years ago, and I said, "Al, do you remember when we worked for the Swift Messenger service for $1.65 an hour?" He said, "Ron, $1.35 an hour." And so that's really true story. Of course, he was nowhere. He was doing showcases, and he always wanted to. Yeah, this was a weird thing. He always wanted to be more friendly with me. He said, "Let's do a scene together, man," or "Let's do this." But I had my own friends, and I don't know. Who knows? If I knew he was going to be,
Right.
I might have changed my mind.
Right. Now,
But he was a good guy. He really was. He was generous. He was always happy. He lived for acting. He loved it. And even though he was poor, we were both dirt poor.
Right.
He was a happy, cheerful guy and couldn't wait for the next part. And he was auditioning for the acting studio every year. It took him 7 years to get in.
Wow. that's quite the story. Much better than I was even hoping for. Now, I know you're still involved as an acting coach through Ron Millkie Studio and whatnot. Can you elaborate on that? What you've done, what you're still doing? You know, anybody who's out there who might be interested in getting into acting, what do you have to offer them?
Yes, well, I still teach acting here in New York City. I have classes Tuesday evenings from 8 to 11 or Sunday afternoons from 1 to 4. Mm-hmm. And if anybody's interested, my email is rmillkie, just like you spell my name, mm-hmm. RMILLKIE@AOL.com.
So what is on deck for you? Any projects in the near future where we find Ron Millkie?
Well, I just did a couple of interesting movies. One is The Bone Garden, mm-hmm. and that is one of my favorite parts, and I played the chief of police. So I'm slowly moving up. I mean, almost 40 years, I'm slowly moving up. And actually, I would be retired by now, or I'd be a detective, or I'd be dead. Or, I mean, that's, if you look at Officer Dorf, that was 1980.
Right.
That's 35 years. Mm-hmm. So I've got The Bone Garden that's going to be released. It's got some kind of a deal with some company, and it'll be on DVD. And then the one that I'm really most excited about is a short I did called Selected. Mm-hmm. And that is done. It was written and directed by these two young fellows who were in my acting class, Zach Brennan and his brother Brian Brennan. Mm-hmm. And they're very, very talented. They wrote the script. It's sort of like homage to sort of like a science fiction thriller. What was the one with Tom Cruise where he was famous one? A combination of that.
I can't remember it now.
A couple of others.
Yeah.
And in that one, I play the New York commissioner.
Oh,
and that's
okay.
set in the future.
All right.
And the last time I talked to Zach, he said that the Tim Abell is also in it. I don't know if you know Tim Abell. He's works a lot in films in L.A. Mm-hmm. And Tim had some connection with the Sci-Fi Channel.
Okay.
And they're hoping to have this done. We'll do it for the Sci-Fi Channel. So everyone will be able to see it. Again, it's called Selected.
Okay.
And I'm getting away from the horror, and this is science fiction. And I play sort of a nasty guy, not to be trusted police commissioner of New York City, set 40 years in the future. And they've got some great graphics and special effects in it.
Okay. Now, my last question here, 3.5 decades on, what is your greatest memory of being part of the Friday the 13th saga?
Well, the greatest memory is not really a memory, but the surprise, the shock of it becoming a classic horror movie with 12. How many sequels were there?
Oh, goodness. I think with the remake and Freddy vs. Jason and everything, I think it's probably 11 or 12 total now, something like that.
Yeah. So that's my that's to me the most surprising and the most wonderful memory, and what to me, I never thought. By that time, I thought, well, no one's going to ever know who I am. I'll just be one of these thousands and thousands of actors who will go to my grave and no one will know who I am. Mm-hmm. Until this happened. And Betsy, God bless her, so, she passed away a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
She read the script, and she says, this is a piece of crap.
Right.
I'm going to do it because I need a new car.
Right.
and I thought, but then I saw it for the first time again last year. I was hosted at a revival here in New York City. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, this is a cool little movie. Mm-hmm. It really is. And so I would just say being lucky that day I made a call to Sean Cunningham that rainy day and asked if there were any parts left in this new movie called Friday the 13th.
All right, well, hey, man, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk. This has been a blast. I mean, I've always loved the Officer Dorf character, and I've just interviewed so many people from the Friday the 13th movies here lately. I just thought, you know what, I'll give it a shot, and thankfully you responded to me, so I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Hello to all my fans. I want to say I love you guys. Thank you for changing my life.
Well, I will definitely put that in there. All right, thanks again, Ron.
Bye-bye.
You kids keep your noses clean, understand? You'll be hearing from me if you don't. We ain't gonna stand for no weirdness out here.